Hello everyone and welcome to Module 5, Consequential Ethical Theories. This week we'll be starting the second part of our critical thinking application process, and I just wanted to jump on and make another quick video because it seemed to help some people last week, and I know these are intricate assignments and we don't have a ton of time in class to go over it, so I think this video would be beneficial to kind of present you guys the expectations of the assignment while you're at home working on it, okay? First thing I recommend is to thoroughly read the instructions. Some people kind of missed some key components of this thing last week because they didn't carefully read the instructions. So please make sure you do that. Also, I would recommend reading the case study again, just to make sure you have all the details in the forefront of your mind, because you're going to need context clues from the case for each stakeholder to kind of predict how they'll be affected by each option, kind of like we did last week, but a little more detailed. So there's a sample format for applying act utilitarianism. Please use this example so you'll have it the way it's supposed to be. But you'll see we got the title page. And then follow the paper layout just like this. So in the first section, you're going to have one good paragraph of 150 words minimum, where you discuss the key concepts of the theory and fully detail the application process one would take in order to come up with an act utilitarian decision for an ethical dilemma. You must use the textbook for support and cite often throughout the paragraph. If you're reading your feedback, many of you are having issues with not providing enough in-text citations. When you have an entire paragraph that's summarizing a theory, one citation in the middle is not enough to cover the documentation. So remember, when you're writing something specific from what you read in the textbook or an article, you need to use an in-text citation. And then maybe my dog will stop barking in the background while I make this video. For the application process, what you want to do is start by presenting your main moral issue, and that's the should or what should question that you came up with in the previous week's assignment. So whatever you decided Barry should do about, getting vaccinated in that question, that goes right here, okay? Now, this is the act utilitarian chart, and this is how we apply the application process to the options that we have for the case. So follow this chart thoroughly, please. It's also explained in the textbook. Use that as an example because you want to have everything just the way I have it here, okay? So you have this scale, and the happiness scale goes from +10 to -10, and there's 0 in the middle. So as you should read in the book, and as we'll talk about in class, this is how we determine how somebody is affected by a particular option. We place their happiness on this scale of -10 to +10. Okay? So what you're going to do on the chart, it's similar to last week's chart, but a little bit different because your stakeholders are across the top. Now I have them numbered here because this isn't, geared towards a real case. You will still need to name your stakeholders, okay, and label your decision maker. And then you'll put your 4 options down the left side. Now you're actually going to write out your options the way you wrote them out in the previous chart. So don't just write option 1, 2, 3, and 4. Remember, this is just an example. I don't have any real options to write there, okay? So your 4 stakeholders across the top and your 4 options down the left. Now you'll notice there's a number in parentheses next to each stakeholder. What that is the number of people that are represented in that stakeholder group. So sometimes your stakeholder group is one person or a couple people, or it's something like a business or society that represents a lot of people. You will have to put a number in there because it affects the outcome of how people are affected. So if it's one person, obviously it's just, a 1 in there. If it's a couple, it's 2. If you pick something like a business or society, you'll have to just guess, or like a family or friends, You'll just have to guess. Put a number down. Think about how many family members he has, how many friends he has, or how many people work at his company, and just guess. And don't stress yourself out about it too much. It's just whatever number you randomly decide to pick for that. Now, some of them are obvious, like 1s and 2s, and some of them you just have to kind of make up. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, please ask me, email me, okay? The reason why we need this number is because what you're going to do, excuse me, for each option, you're going to come up with a number from -10 to +10 for how happy you think this decision will make that stakeholder. Now, -10 is the absolute worst thing that could ever happen to that person. +10 is the absolute best thing that can ever happen to that person. Now, there's a wide variety of numbers in this scale, but for some reason, everybody wants to do just +10, -10, +10, -10. If everything you have on here is just a +10, -10, that's going to show a lack of critical thinking. I want you to use your context clues. There are things that each person's going to prefer. There's things that each person's not going to like, and I want you to rate that on a scale as you see it from -10 to +10, but I want you to try to be as accurate and authentic to that numbering process as possible and not just throw a bunch of, the same numbers in there, okay? And then what happens is you get your numbers. So like this option, the net utility was -7 and there was 2 stakeholders. So after you multiply it, it's -14. Do you see? And you want to show this math in there. If you don't show the math, you're going to lose points because I want to see how you came up with it. Obviously, if there's only 1 stakeholder, you don't have to, I'm not going to make you show that math, but make sure you do that for all 4 options and all 4 stakeholders. Because then what you're going to do at the end, you're going to calculate the net utility for each option, and this goes across, right? So we have -14, -7, +12, and 0, which comes out to a -9. And then the other one's 29, -12, and 15. Once you have these numbers calculated, an ACT utilitarian is going to pick the option that has the highest value, highest net utility, highest positive number, 29. So whatever that comes out to be, whether you like that option or not personally, the ACT utilitarian option is the option that produces the highest net utility, because that's the greatest amount of good for the most amount of people involved in the scenario, okay? And that's further explained in the textbook. And use this chart as an example, use this video for guidance, and definitely email me if you have any questions. But just pick a number, okay, for each stakeholder in each option, multiply it by the number of people in there, add it all up to the end, and then select your option with the highest net utility. Now, in the last section, this is the decision in a 1 paragraph of 150 words minimum. You're going to explain the best option according to ACT utilitarianism. So what should the decision maker do if they were truly ACT utilitarian? Start by saying if Bob were an ACT utilitarian, he would. Now, obviously, Bob isn't your decision maker, and some people went a little too literal to my example in the last video and literally put Bob in their assignments, and there's no Bob in our case. So make sure we're paying attention to that kind of stuff, okay? And then you're just going to talk about what the utilitarian theory says is morally best thing to do according to application. Use the textbook if needed for this explanation, and be sure to paraphrase, don't directly quote, and as always, cite directly after the borrowed material. You don't have to use information directly from the theory in this section, but if you want to, make sure you cite the textbook, okay? And then the last thing you're going to have is a references sheet with a properly formatted APA citation for the textbook. Please, please, please make sure you cite everything you take from the book. If not, there's going to be heavy penalties, okay? So once again, to sum up, you're going to basically describe the application process of ACT utilitarianism. You're going to state your main moral issue. You're going to fill out your stakeholders and your options on the chart. You're going to do the math for your net utility. You're going to figure out which one has the highest net utility, and then you're going to write a paragraph about the decision that your decision maker should take and how they came upon that option. Okay? As always, if you have any questions, please email me. We'll talk about this a little bit in class, but please use this video to guide you through the assignment, as this one is, somewhat detailed, and we want to make sure we get it right so that we get the correct ACT utilitarian decision. Okay? Bye for now. Good luck.